So the question has to do with, are tutors required to finish the training before they can start? Are tutors required to finish the training before they start using counting the calculus? The answer is 50%. So all I need is 2 weeks with a tutor of discussing the ideas of counting the calculus. After that 2 weeks, I actually want them to start so they can start practicing. It's almost like doctor training. Doctors are trained, but they have to be practicing. Well, they're not practicing independently. No, but what I mean, they're under the supervision of another doctor, right, for a season. Some of you will become my supervisors very soon, I'm sure. By the time you start teaching me further mathematics again, I will just step aside. My vision is not necessarily to be the technical expert on all of it. I want to be working with you guys, and all of us will be leveraging our expertise in different aspects of mathematics. So we become colleagues in a sense. We're not, Amos doesn't know all the mathematics, so he needs you guys to also be a resource to him, right? So the point I'm making is Sunday, after just 2 weeks. So let's say the first 2 weeks, so that'll be, let's say the 4th and the 11th of October. After the 4th and 11th of October, oh yeah, everybody, let's go. If I find a student that you can help, I will connect you guys. You start teaching them, and then you start giving, we'll be seeing how you are doing. So we'll give you feedback. Does that make sense? Now, for those of you who want to come under the Counting the Calculus brand, because Counting the Calculus is like a franchise. What that means is that some of you will use it as an add-on to your business. It's not like you have your own business, that's fine. But then after those 2 weeks, you can let us know if you want to be within the Counting the Calculus brand. That means that you are working for Counting the Calculus, if that makes sense. So that's the second option. You can run your business and use us as a side support, or we can have you join our network as a tutor. So there's options for how you want to engage with us. But what I'm trying to say is that after the 2 weeks, I want to start introducing you to some students, right? When students call from Abuja, Lagos, or some other places in the US, we have some families in the US that want to use counting the calculus. So students in diaspora, their parents are from Nigeria, but they live in America. I want you to start working with them and record yourself teaching. And then let's have feedback. And if you want to invite me in, I would love to come. And what I'm doing is I'm giving you feedback after the call so that you can begin to step your brand more and more, right? Increase your branding. And now those remaining 2 weeks, after the 4 weeks total, you can now have your certificate that you are also a certified counting to calculus tutor. That is the level 1 training. The level 1 training takes 4 weeks, and it allows you to have a certificate. But after 2 weeks, you can start training, start teaching students. You don't have to wait for the 4 weeks. But after the 4 weeks, you get your certificate. You can put it on LinkedIn that you have got your counting to calculus certificate, which means that you understand how to teach mathematics systematically from counting to calculus. My book, Tools for Mastering Mathematics, talks about some of these ideas. That's why I said we should read Tools for Mastering Mathematics. I wrote Tools for Mastering Mathematics when I realized that the American math curriculum was very poor. I know this is going to sound crazy to some of you. Do you know that the primary and secondary school mathematics in America is actually very poor in terms of the standard that it reaches? Compare American math to Singapore or Germany or France or even Nigeria, and you will find out that the students in Nigeria are outperforming or will outperform the students in America if they have the same support for electricity and power supply. If I don't have electricity problems and I use the Nigerian curriculum, I will be better than somebody in the same grade level as me in SS1. I will be way better as a Nigerian student in Nigeria compared to an American student. This is what I've done my research in for 15 years. About 10 to 15 years. I've been studying curriculum around the world, and I realized that Nigeria's curriculum is actually better. That's why I bought all the textbooks now. And even now, I want to start, if people want to buy a Nigerian textbook and they live in America and UK, let's start selling it to them now, because it is better. If you allow this textbook to rub minds with a student in America, that student will be better than somebody who doesn't have it. New General Mathematics is serious, so. I know we might take it for granted in Nigeria, but New General Mathematics is serious business. So if you can get your child to understand New General Mathematics from JS1 to SS3 and get them to understand the further math textbook, they will be one of the best math students anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. From Singapore. I also have the book from Singapore. And what is the #1 country in primary school mathematics? It's Singapore. So if I'm looking at Singapore and I'm looking at Nigeria, and I'm noticing that the best country in math education by many respects has problems that are similar to the one from Nigeria. You guys see what I'm saying? Nigeria has what Singapore has. Nigeria has it. What we don't have is some of the infrastructure. And so one of the things I'm training in my AI literacy, because I also teach AI as a course, one of the things I'm teaching people with AI is that you need to start thinking of how to solve problems in your village and your community using AI as a research assistant to support you in your work. That is the era we're living in, my people. We can solve more infrastructure problems than ever before. So tutors, 4 weeks is what it takes to get a level 1 certificate. However, 2 weeks is all I need, and then I can begin to introduce you to people as we have need to tutor them. But that leads me to a question. What is your business model? You have to have a business model. What is your business model so that when you're starting to use counting the calculus, and I can share with you the business model that we use so you can use it as well. Our business model, we have primary school, we have JS 1 to 3, and we have SS 1 to 3. We break down the pricing based on where they're at. And then number 2, we break down the pricing based on if they want one-on-one tutoring or group tutoring. I'm willing to share all of that with you. So let's talk about that later. And the point is, I want you to also have a very good business model so that you can support as many students as possible with counting to calculus. Now, after you get your level 1 certificate, you can get a level 2 certificate. The level 2 certificate is where you are now entering a realm where you are teaching other people counting to calculus. So level 1 is you know what counting to calculus is, and you can teach a little bit of counting to calculus. Level 2 is you are now entering the dimension where you are teaching people counting to calculus. Level 3, by God's grace, that is where you are now doing a global webinar, like I'm doing right now, and you are teaching 8 to 12 people, for example. You are teaching them their level 1 and level 2 certification. Does that make sense? So my level 3 certification for counting to calculus. So the level 3 certification for counting to calculus allows you to now literally begin to teach teachers around the world how to use tools like counting to calculus. Now, counting to calculus is not just a curriculum. Let's actually define it. It's not just a curriculum. Even though it has curricular materials, counting to calculus in one sense is just a statement. It is saying that you can learn mathematics from counting to calculus, from primary 1 to SS3. That's what we're saying. We're saying, if I ask you right now, can you explain mathematics from primary 1 to SS3, all the topics people need to learn, and all the prerequisites for all the topics? That's what counting to calculus is saying, is that can you teach mathematics? Like if I gave you understanding mathematics, this is understanding mathematics for primary 4. This is the Singapore math curriculum for primary 6. So again, we have Nigeria and we have Singapore. So if you connect, can you take any child from wherever they are and teach them mathematics so that they're able to do New General Math SS3 and get an A1 in WAEC? That's the question. One of the reasons that people don't get A1 in WAEC, which I thank God for the school I went to, a lot of people, A1 in WAEC was very common in maths and science and so on. And one of the things, this was Federal Government College, Ijanikin, Lagos. One of the things that you realize is that that the reason why people struggle in mathematics is because you are trying to teach them the lesson on page 200, but they have not mastered the lesson on page 1. That is why people struggle in mathematics. So then the problem becomes, how do you get them to learn mathematics fast from primary 1 to SS3? Because when they're in SS3 and they're struggling in mathematics, you cannot say, let's sit you down and teach you primary 1, primary 2, primary 3. So what you give them is counting to calculus. Counting to calculus will show them fast, where are you struggling and how can we get you ahead? Do you see what it's doing? Where are you struggling and how can we get you ahead fast? So I know some of the things I'm sharing are going to sound strange because we're not used to learning 6 years of mathematics in 1 year. But with AI tools, it's very possible. So after the 4 weeks, you get your level 1 training. If you want to do another 4 weeks, you can do level 2 training. And then if you want to do another 4 weeks, you now enter the level where now, if Amos says, somebody calls Amos in Lagos, and they say, Amos, can you come to Lagos to do a training? So I can't go and do the training right now. Maybe I'm somewhere else. Guess what? I'll call the people that are level 3 certified. And I'll say, a school has called me and they want me to do training. I can't go to Lagos. Can you go and represent the counting to calculus program? And can you teach them how to use counting to calculus? And can you teach them how to build a GPT for themselves? And then after you do the training, you can now issue certificates to them. See what I'm saying? What I'm doing is I want to train people on the level 3 program to be able to teach everything I'm teaching as though they can they'll be representing me as if I'm the one that gave the talk. If you want to get to that level 3 training, there's a lot more training involved, but it is an option for people. Level 1 is what I'm focused on right now. And after level 1, everybody should be able to teach counting to calculus with confidence. Now, does it mean you will know all the mathematics in 4 weeks? Not necessarily, but guess what? You will have access to the GPT that I shared. Everybody saw that GPT. And inside that GPT, I will show you how to learn anything you want to learn fast in mathematics. Once you have the nuts and bolts of mathematics, you can learn anything fast. Do you know that the most important subject in the AI age right now is mathematics and physics? Because if you know mathematics and physics, you can learn anything fast. And let me end with one more thing. In primary school, the most important topic in primary school and GS1 is prime factorization. And I'll tell you why. And you guys are beginning to see how I teach mathematics. Prime factorization comes from the topic of prime numbers. And prime numbers comes from Greece, from a mathematician named Euclid. What you'll notice about how I teach mathematics is I always start with the math history. So in the counting to calculus ecosystem, we also need to know the history of mathematics. Why? So that we can help the students to understand why they are learning what they are learning. You need to know the history and the applications. These are some of the things you learn from the counting to calculus network. So you know the history and you know the applications. You are now telling the student about prime factorization. Why is prime factorization important? Because if you know how to prime factorize, that means you can find the lowest common denominator. And if you know how to find the lowest common denominator, that means you can add fractions of unlike denominators. And if you know how to add fractions of unlike denominators, that means you know how to work with rational expressions in algebra. And if you know how to work with rational expressions, your math skills can allow you to enter calculus. Do you guys see the chain that I just created? Prime factorization, lowest common denominator, fraction addition, algebra, calculus. But notice it starts from prime factorization. This is the way we are thinking about mathematics. We can take anybody from primary school math to JS1 to 3 to SS1 to 3, and we can do it as a straight journey without any problems. That is what a counting to calculus tutor will be able to do. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments, objections? I'll stop the recording.